Welcome to the Builders of Authority podcast, a show committed to helping you build authority for your brand. In the realm of business and personal branding, authority stands as a cornerstone. Authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time. So join us as we build something remarkable together. And now, here's your host, Adam McChesney.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Builders of Authority podcast. Our title sponsor for the podcast is Go High Level, also known as GHL. GHL is the first ever all-in-one platform that will give you the tools, support, and resources you need to succeed and crush your marketing goals. Personally, I've used this software since 2020. It's been a game changer for my business and our clients. If you're looking to level up your CRM and marketing game, then this is the platform to use. You can find a link for a free and extended 30-day trial with tons of Builders of Authority bonuses in the show notes. So take advantage of the opportunity to adopt this amazing software and grow your business. Today is an episode I've been looking forward to for quite some time. I've been following this person since I went full-time with my agency back in 2020. We've been connected online for a few years, and I've consumed so much of his content, but it wasn't until last April 2024 that I got to meet him in person when we shared the stage at SEO Spring Training. He's someone that I look up to, not just in the agency and entrepreneurial space or in digital marketing. Because of all those things, he's also an incredible human being as well, and I'm excited to dive into today's episode. My guest is Josh Nelson. He is the CEO and founder of Plumbing and HVAC SEO and founder and CEO of Seven Figure Agency. Josh, welcome to the show.
Oh man, what an introduction. Thank you. So glad to be here and so glad to connect with you further.
Yeah, so excited for today's episode. So tell people, I know you got a couple different things going on, but tell people kind of how you got started in the entrepreneurial space and then how you've grown since then.
Yeah, so it started right out of high school. Decided I was going to start a web design and hosting company. Launched it out of high school, beat my head against the wall, made no money, failed, had to shut it down, went and got a regular job for several years, but was always a student of the game, like reading those books we all read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, The E-Myth Revisited, and decided, all right, I'm going to give this shot again. Started my next agency, Click Incorporated, which quickly became Plumbing and HVAC SEO. That time, I had a different model, I had a different approach. We grew to seven figures in about 2 years. Now we're currently doing about $7 million per year in the plumbing and HVAC agency. And we also run Seven Figure Agency, which is our coaching and mentorship program specifically for digital marketing agencies looking to grow and scale.
Love it. So I heard right out of high school, failed, had to shut it down, all that stuff, went and got a job, and then obviously started again. What was the transition like going to get that job? And then what were some things that you learned doing it now a second time?
Oh, yeah. So the transition was painful, because, when you start a business, regardless of how young you are, how bad it's performing, you want it to work, right? And you as an entrepreneur, getting a job is like the worst possible outcome. But just financially, I had to do it. I was getting married to my wife. We've been married now 20 plus years, which is wild. But the time we were getting married, I needed to be able to pay for the house and actually live a decent life. And so I went out and got a job, but I had a commute. And so during that commute, I would listen to audiobooks. I don't know you, audible.com was my favorite app. Listened to literally hundreds and hundreds of books. And one of the books that really resonated with me was The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. I'm not sure if you've read it. I highly recommend it.
Yep.
Read it a couple of times per year, just because I like to try to elevate myself in terms of my mindset there. But in that book, he talks about, if you want to be successful in business, you don't necessarily have to go and start that business. You should enter the corridor somewhere. So if you think you want to run a business in digital marketing, you can start an agency, or you can try and find a successful agency that's doing it right and work there and get some experience and get a sense of whether you can actually jive in this industry. And so that's what I did. I wound up getting a job at Reach Local, the big pay-per-click management company. Worked there for about a year. And I learned a lot. Like, what I was doing with my original business was I was selling a website for $1,000 and then a hosting fee of $50 a month. And even if I sold 7 websites in a given month, that wasn't enough money to ever get past 10K or even dream of getting to 7 figures. Mm-hmm. And so when I worked at Reach Local and I saw what they were doing, and it was always a monthly recurring fee, and it wasn't just to build a website, it was to generate leads and sales and ideally help the business grow. And I started selling those types of programs. I was like, okay, this is totally different. I'm ready to go try this again. And I think that just changing the pricing model, changing the structure had a huge difference in why our second business was so much more successful.
Love it. That's absolutely incredible. And I'm glad that you brought up kind of the aspect of, hey, going and finding a business of an industry that you want to be in and being a student of the game there before feeling like you have to go out. And I know a lot of people have, back against the wall, whatever, for whatever reason, they have to just go start the business. But a lot of people probably should take that avenue and say, hey, I want to not have to go all in, but I want to get in the right environment that allows me to go from here to there. I think most people try to just go right out of the gate and get it done.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? And if you don't have the right model, you don't have the right insights, you don't have any expertise or experience, that you got to learn that one way or the other. You can either pay for it or you can go get paid to develop those skills. One of the benefits of entering the corridor in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I noticed you mentioned Click Incorporated and then plumbing and HVAC SEO. I obviously consume a lot of your content. I've read your books and heard you speak last year. So I know kind of the transition, but talk to people about how, from a branding standpoint and an internal business standpoint, you went from super generalist down to niche down.
Yeah. So when I worked at Reach Local, it was all general, clients, right? It was in a local market and we live in Miami. So it was Miami, South Florida companies, and you could sell to anybody, the roofer, the chiropractor, the hair salon, whatever it was that you could get their attention. But I knew that the most successful sales reps that I was looking at were selling to a specific pocket. They were selling to legal, or they were selling to plumbing, or they were selling to one of these industries. And so I knew early when I started Click Incorporated, I wanted to go a vertical path, but I didn't have any clients yet. And so we started it as Click Incorporated, which was a generalist agency serving South Florida. But we chose a couple hypothetical niches. So we chose restaurants, and we chose eye doctors, and we chose dentists, and we started prospecting into those verticals. And everyone that follows me knows that I'm big into choose the niche, just focus on one niche. We thought our niche was going to be restaurants. Like that was going to be it. Restaurants was the play with social media. It's a lot more interactive. But with all the prospecting we did, we couldn't get any restaurants. Nobody was willing to pay the amount of money that we wanted to charge. And we kind of backed in to a plumbing opportunity. And we wound up landing our first plumbing client. And even my business partner, Dean, and I had a conversation. We're like, hey, don't worry. Like, we've got this plumbing opportunity here. We're still going to focus on restaurants, but let's take this. We got to pay some bills. Right. And we got that client. We got him great results. And he referred us to somebody else. And it just started to become much clearer that this was the path of least resistance for us, was going to be the focus on the plumbing and ultimately plumbing and HVAC niche.
That's awesome. And I think, like, a lot of times people, they're like freaking out. They're like, oh, I don't know what niche I want to be in and all those different things. Sometimes it just comes to you. Yeah. Right. But talk to us about some of the benefits from a scalability aspect. So whether you're a digital marketer or you're selling something, or you are a contractor, we have contractors that listen to this and they're like, hey, I work with anybody and everybody with a home or a roof. It's like, no, you don't. But talk to us a little bit about what the importance of that looks like.
Yeah. So, I mean, from any business's perspective, the clearer you are on who you serve and, their customer avatar, their problems, their unique opportunities, the better your marketing messaging can be, the better the program or the offer that you can develop that's going to match with that particular industry. From an agency's perspective, when you can say, hey, I specialize in working with roofing contractors and I've got a proven result, and these are the other roofing companies I've generated outcomes for, you become magnetically attractive, right? And that's what we all want. We want clients to come to us, and people will pay a premium to work with the expert in their type of business. But that's only on the marketing side. Really, the true benefit comes on the delivery side, because when you're working with a plumber one day, a roofer the next day, an AC company the next day, you're reinventing the wheel for every client. It takes a lot of creative energy, and you can never get to the place where you've got a proven, I know this industry, I know these are the keywords, I know this is how we set it up, and you can really iterate and get better. And so from my perspective, yes, it's great from a marketing and attractiveness perspective, but it's even better from a delivery perspective, systemization perspective, ability to put a team in place to execute and scale your operations.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more. And so I literally told you when I saw you at SEO Spring Training back in April. I'm like, man, if I would have actually listened to your content, like not just saw it and said, wow, he's clearly got something going on. If I would have done that when I first got started in my agency full time back in 2020, I would have been like, man, I read your book, The 7-Figure Roadmap, and I was like, oh my gosh, I read this recently, and I'm like, man, if I would have just had that in the beginning, it would have made so much more sense. Because when I got started, and so many people get started, is you're trying to run around and you're trying to do everything, right? You're wearing all the hats, you're trying to be everything to everybody. And then you realize like the hardest aspect, and I think most digital marketers struggle with this, it doesn't matter how good you are at building the website, doesn't matter how good you are at doing the SEO. If you can't acquire clients and then serve those clients at a very, very high level based on what you sold, then you are going to struggle. And so it's easier from a relationship building standpoint and networking, as you mentioned, to really build a solid pipeline when you are so clear and everybody knows Adam is the digital marketer for X, Josh does plumbing and HVAC, and then scale it from there.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's hard at the beginning, like you said, right? Because you don't have a handful of clients. You don't have that ceiling of experience. But if you can make that pivot early, you will really set yourself up for accelerated growth.
Yeah, absolutely. So at what point did you guys start 7-Figure Agency in addition to running the agency?
We started 7-Figure Agency about a year in. So, not a year in. Once we hit 7 figures, we were in a bunch of the local meetups and the local marketing groups and communities. And people were coming to us and saying, hey, like, how did you grow the agency so quickly? What are you doing differently? Why can't I replicate that in my business? And so we said, hey, look, let's create 7-Figure Agency blueprint. And it was just what we did, right? We choose the niche, position yourself as the expert, systematize your program. And it's blossomed from there.
That's awesome. And so what have that side of the business, obviously, so that's more like coaching, community, mastermind, if you will, versus running the agency on a typical standpoint. Like, what have you learned in that side that has been completely different about business, branding, marketing, than actually running an agency?
Yeah, I think, a lot of the same principles apply. You'd think it'd be a polar different, like how you market an agency versus how you market a coaching and mentorship program. But at the end of the day, right, what's the niche? It's digital marketing agencies. What's the offer? Helping them grow and scale. I'm a big fan of Dan Kennedy, and I know I'm dating myself with that reference, but Dan Kennedy is the godfather of information marketing, and he was always an advocate of your business when you become good at it and when you excel at it, has another business attached to it, which is the byproduct, which is everything you did to grow your business can be sold to others that want to replicate that. And so I just took that concept and applied it to how we built and why we built 7-Figure Agency.
That's awesome. I've been just seeing all the different stuff, and as I've consumed your content even more, it is so cool how there is a direct correlation of like, hey, what we're teaching is what we're doing and what we've done. And I think what you guys have built, it's so admirable and incredible because so often, and I've been in so many of these programs where people are teaching stuff they haven't done or they're not actively doing it. And there's all of those different things. And it's refreshing to see kind of you guys living out, but now going and helping the previous version of where you guys were at. And I know it's kind of cliche, but it's, you were best able to serve and help the person or the business that you once were. But that's where I've learned and consumed the best stuff, is learning from somebody that's actually done it. What is your kind of take on that specifically?
100%. I think you want to learn from someone that's done what you're looking to do, that's been down that track. I think also it's easy to point to the other people that are launching courses and programs and say, hey, look, you're not there yet. You don't know what you're doing. Yeah. But I really think mastery comes from when you learn something and master it and you start to teach it to others. And so I think I'm all for it, right? Take what you've learned, and teach others. Just don't try and make things up. I think that's where people get in trouble. They start to say, oh, this is the way to grow an agency or how to deliver results when they haven't done it, or they read somewhere that this might be the right way to do it. I think as long as you're doing that from a place of integrity, you're doing it from a place of this works for me, and that's why I'm showing you how to do it. I think that's the best way for a win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. It's just so funny. Like when I relaunched our agency back in October, I was getting a bunch of messages from people that were like, "Hey, like all the spam and the bots and the people that are cold DMing is like, hey, I can, be your marketing agency sales coach." And I'm like, I don't think you like read the posts at all. I've already done a multiple 7-figure agency. I'm restarting a new one, but
Mm,
it's just so funny how people are so quick to like try to go and not be somebody that they're not, but then they try to go do the cold DM, the outdated strategies where what you're teaching and what I'm a big believer of, obviously with building
mm,
authority, is just sharing content, creating a ton of content, which is kind of where I want to take the conversation here is
yeah.
you do a lot of content. How do you manage all of
Mm.
that content?
Yeah, so I love the name Builders of Authority because I think that's in any business today with AI the way that it's coming on strong with all of the competition in the marketplace. The best thing you can do in your business, in your brand, is to position yourself as the authority, as the expert. And the best way to do that is by putting out value added content, whether that's videos, webinars, trainings, books, etc. We do a lot of content. I believe that the best way to do it is through batching in advance. And so there's two key things that I kind of commit to every single month. I'm going to do one long form video, which is a webinar. I'm going to invite a bunch of people to it. I'm going to create unique, fresh content. So this isn't like a webinar where I'm doing a value stack and making an offer. It's literally, here's my latest and greatest information on this particular topic. And by doing it once a month, you're nurturing your database. And more importantly, you're forcing yourself with a hard date and time to create that long form content, right? And to kind of improve your thought leadership skills. The other thing would be to do one podcast episode at least every single month. And that's like what we're doing here, right? Interview somebody, ask them about what they've done, ask them about their expertise, and create value added content. But I also think in today's market, there's a place for short form content and there's a place for intentional video based content. And so if I try to do the amount of content that we load up every single day, just the consistency of that would be very, very hard. And so what I do is I do a long content block where I've got 6 hours blocked, usually 6 to 8 hours once a month. And during that one block, I've got undivided attention. I've got my setup ready to go. I've got my camera guy there, if I've got a camera guy involved. And I've already thought out, all right, these are the topics, these are the hooks, and I can crank it out. And then we can, the team can then grab that content and load it, syndicate it, populate it over time. That's been what's worked best for me. When I try to do it too frequently, too many things are going on, too many distractions, where a long content block, time block works really well.
Yeah. Well, I implemented that earlier this year as we started doing multiple YouTube videos a week and multiple short form stuff. And it was like the thing that changed the game for me because I was sitting there like every day I was creating like a little piece. And then as I needed to create more content, I mean, it got to the point where I'm like, I'm teaching people how to create content. And yes, it's going well because it's getting out there and doing it, but I'm exhausted and I hate the idea of creating content, even though that I know that it works because it wasn't structured. So it's kind of just like treating it as something on your schedule that you just have to do and you have to set that time aside in order to make it happen.
Yeah, and I will say your content is great. I've been watching your videos, and
Appreciate it.
you're doing fantastic and consistent work. So well done.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So talk to us a little bit about 7-Figure Agency, because I know we have quite a few digital marketers that listen to this podcast. What are all the things that you guys offer and how do you help agencies and where do agencies fall at from a revenue standpoint when they're working with you guys?
Yeah, so the 7-Figure Agency ultimately it's a coaching and mentorship program. It started as a course, right, which was here's how we built our agency with how we land clients, how we deliver the results, what we do to retain clients, how we built our SOPs and procedures, and quickly realized course is great, but people need additional support. They need additional mentorship. They need live engagement, and really that's what moves things forward. And so what it is we get together live and in person 3 times per year in Miami for what we call intensives. Those are 2-day events. And then we get together on Zoom, multiple times throughout a week. And we're just constantly leveling up. I don't want to get into like all the details and bore the audience, but it's a community of agencies all doing 6 figures, 7 figures, multiple 7 figures, sharing ideas, supporting each other, helping to move things forward in their businesses and lives.
That's incredible. Yeah, I've seen picture. I got to get out to an event, but I've seen
Yeah, I'd love
pictures.
to have you. That'd be amazing.
I've seen a ton of stuff that you guys have going on, and it's really about, because I've been to a ton of different marketing events, but you can see something different from the way people talk about the event. They talk about the community, just how many people are there as well. Like events,
Mm,
especially masterminds right now, they're tough to fill up and they're tough to do. Last year was a crazy year, but like there was so much content all over social media of just raving fans of people being there and being active in the community. So that's absolutely incredible. What are you kind of heading into 2025, right? Whether it's on the agency side or seven figure agency, what are you most excited about for the future of your businesses?
Well, so like we're very mission based. So like when we started Seven Figure Agency, our mission was to help 100 agencies get to seven figures,
Mm,
and that was a big, hairy, audacious, crazy goal. This year we've got 137 agencies that have grown to seven figures. So now
wow.
the goal is to get 500 agencies to seven figures, and we recently launched our Titan Group because there's too many agencies at seven figures now, and they need something bigger to aspire to. And so Titans is our multiple seven figure mastermind, and the agency's going to eight figures and beyond. And so I'm really excited about just helping agencies make more money, have more freedom, have a bigger impact, and really help those multiple seven figure agencies start to elevate even to the next level so they can have even a bigger impact as they grow.
Absolutely incredible. Want to get your take on this before we finish up today's episode. AI in
Mm,
agencies, right? So one of the reasons why I wanted to eventually like restart the agency and make the pivot that I did was I believe agencies are going to be turning into more consultants and
mm,
strategists, as I've always kind of operated, versus the typical like, hey, we're going to press a bunch of buttons and do that. If you go that traditional route, you're likely going to get replaced if you haven't already by AI at some point. Where do you see AI, and then where do you see agencies playing into that model for the future for businesses?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. If you're a single thing, like you just do SEO or you just do content or you just do Facebook ads and you're just doing it as a service, AI is going to eat your lunch, right?
Mhm.
But if you think of yourself as a growth partner with the clients that you serve, and whether it's SEO or whether it's paid search, isn't the challenge. It's how do we help our clients take a dollar in online marketing and turn it into 7 or 10 and do that on a consistent basis. Then what you want to do is you want to harness AI. You want to figure out what the latest trends are. You want to be figuring out what's going to move the needle fastest for the clients you serve. And I think if you think of yourself, like you just said, a consultant or a growth partner, you can harness AI. You can become even more efficient. You can have better profitability, and you can provide even better results for the clients that choose to retain your services.
Yeah. Well, and we've already started to basically, adapt AI and as we relaunch the agency and literally telling our clients, hey, here's exactly the tools we're using, here's why we're using them. And
Mm,
the whole aspect is because some of these clients we're educating, we're giving away all this information through my content for free. And people are like, oh, I could go download Search Atlas or I could go do all these different things. It's like, yeah, go try and do that. If
yeah,
you
good
don't
luck.
have my experience and my strategy and my team stuff, AI and technology is only as good as the information you're putting in there. You need
Mhm.
us to do that, but we're able to do so much more for you in less time than what it used to take us. You need to partner with somebody that understands AI. You're not going to be an AI expert with SEO or Google or whatever it might be, right? So that's, I think, the thing that I would love to see more digital marketers do is actually educate and provide more value versus the scarcity mindset of like, oh, I don't want them to know that I'm using this thing over here. They're going to find out sooner or later, one way or the other, if you don't share it.
100%. And I think, that's the right approach, right? Be sure you're coming out in front. You're talking about the latest trends. You're talking about the tools. If you show someone an exact blueprint from A to Z, they're not going to take the blueprint and implement it. They're going to say, oh, he's got the blueprint. I
Yep.
better hire him or her to help me execute it. And so that, any thoughts of I need to hold my secret sauce, kind of behind the keyboard, needs to be stricken, right? You need to give it all out there because it's the people that are giving great content and they're showing exactly how to do it in advance are the ones that are attracting all the best clients.
Absolutely. I was just laughing. I was doing a podcast right before this, and I was said somebody, a tree service company, reached out to me last night, and they're like, "Hey, Adam, we heard you on a podcast. We want to set up a meeting to talk about website SEO, ads, all that stuff." And I said, "Okay, cool. What podcast?" And they were like, "So and so's podcast from 2021." And I was like, man, I can't believe, like, it doesn't seem that long ago, but that was almost 4 years ago, right? And so all this content as well is also evergreen, but they loved that I was literally just sharing the game back then. Like, well, the game's changed a little bit. There's more stuff we can do for you, but it goes to show you that this stuff is evergreen content that eventually it's going to get to the right person if you continue to follow through with it.
100%.
Yeah. Love it, Josh. Well, this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can people stay connected with you online and learn a little bit more about Seven Figure Agency and everything you guys have going on?
Yeah, the best place is sevenfigureagency.com. There you can grab a copy of either of our 2 books, the Seven Figure Agency Roadmap or the Client Retention Handbook. And that's just a great place to plug in, and would love to connect with anyone that's interested in learning more.
Love it. Josh, thank you so much. Always great chatting with you. And this is an incredible episode.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thank you again to the audience for listening to today's episode, as well as our title sponsor, Go High Level. Without them, we aren't able to produce the quality of content or have amazing guests on like we did today with Josh. Check out a free and extended 30-day trial in the show notes. Make sure as well to leave us a 5-star review, making a big push for those reviews this year, and it definitely helps move the needle. Remember, authority isn't built overnight. It's built over time.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get notifications as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. We sure do appreciate it. Until next time, friends.